What if you're not exhausted because you're doing too much, but because you're doing too little of what actually matters? What if the longing that stirs in the middle of the night isn't a sign of failure, but a holy invitation? What if meaning doesn't come from applause, hustle, or external success, but from living the life God uniquely crafted for you? We live in a generation overflowing with options, but starving for meaning. Notifications, distractions, and obligations compete for our attention. Yet deep inside, so many feel aimless, like we're moving but not truly progressing. It's not just a life issue, it's a soul issue. Because we weren't created to drift, we were designed to live on purpose. And purpose isn't about perfection or productivity. It's not about being busy or always having the answer. It's about alignment. It's waking up each day knowing your life carries weight, that your actions, your voice, your presence, all of it matters. When you live with purpose, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start becoming. You gain clarity, not just on what you're doing, but why. And when you know your why, you can walk through almost any how. Purpose becomes your compass in a chaotic world. But here's what many miss. Purpose isn't found by looking around. It's uncovered by looking within, by diving into the depths of your soul and even deeper into God's heart. True purpose begins not with the question, what do I want from life, but what does God want from my life? That one shift changes everything, because God's vision for you is far greater than your own. It's not limited to goals or milestones or dreams that fit on a vision board. It's about eternity. It's about impact. It's about becoming, not just achieving. And here's the secret. Stepping into purpose doesn't require a perfect plan or a massive leap. It starts with small decisions, daily, quiet, intentional. Purpose isn't about overhauling your life. It's about showing up, again and again, with faith and focus. It's choosing presence over pressure, obedience over image, trust over control. Meaning is found in the mundane, in speaking encouragement to someone who's struggling, in choosing to be still instead of escaping discomfort, in listening for God's voice when the world is shouting at you to do more, be more, perform more. It's in asking better questions. Where is God inviting me to trust deeper? What area of my life have I kept off limits from His purpose? Who needs me to show up with intention today, not obligation? These aren't productivity questions, they're purpose questions. And they bring us back to the center, to Christ. Because purpose doesn't come from striving. It comes from surrender. It can't be manufactured. It must be revealed through stillness, through obedience, through faith. Without God, purpose becomes performance. With God, purpose becomes power. When you begin to walk in that power, everything shifts. You start recognizing divine moments in daily life. The conversation with a friend becomes a sacred space. The task at work becomes an opportunity for integrity. The delay you once resented becomes a divine detour for growth. Because purpose redefines how you see everything. You realize that meaning isn't something you chase, it's something you carry. It's already inside you, planted by the Creator Himself. It just needs room to breathe, space to grow, and faith to move. And as you make space for that purpose, distractions lose their grip. You no longer need the approval of others to feel worthy. You no longer feel the pressure to prove yourself. You no longer live based on other people's timelines or expectations. Instead, you live grounded, present, clear. You wake up not with anxiety, but with anticipation. Not because life is perfect, but because you're anchored in something eternal. That's what purpose does. It anchors you. To truth when the world offers lies. To joy when circumstances try to steal it. To calling when culture pushes you to conform. It helps you stay rooted even when life feels uncertain. And here's the beauty. When you live this way, others take notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're deeper. Not because you impress them, but because you impact them. You become a quiet revolution in a noisy world. Not chasing influence, but cultivating presence. Not demanding attention, but radiating intention. Not asking, how can I stand out, but how can I serve well? And that question, that posture, that's where legacy is born. Because purpose outlives you. It multiplies, it echoes. It plants seeds in the lives of others that grow long after you're gone. And the seeds you plant don't have to be grand, they just have to be faithful. A moment of forgiveness, a word of encouragement, a step of obedience, a prayer whispered in faith. Each one becomes a brick in something bigger than yourself. You're not just building a life, you're building a legacy that speaks not of perfection but of presence, not of having it all together but of choosing to show up anyway, not of control but of trust. And in that trust God works. He takes your little and multiplies it. He turns your yes into stories of freedom. He uses your surrender to open doors you couldn't force open yourself. So if you're searching for purpose, stop striving and start surrendering. God's not waiting for you to figure it all out. He's just waiting for your yes. That yes doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. It sounds like, God, I don't know what's next, but I trust you. It looks like showing up one more time when you feel like quitting. It feels like peace in your chest when you step into alignment instead of ambition. Because purpose is not about acceleration, it's about alignment. You could be moving fast, but going nowhere. But when you're aligned, even your slowest step is filled with meaning. Even your quietest season is saturated with growth. Purpose doesn't rush, it roots. It teaches you to go deep before you go wide, to build character before you build influence, to hear God's voice before you speak to the crowd. And when you build that way, your foundation becomes unshakable. Because storms will come, delays will test you, rejection will try to define you. But when you know who you are, and more importantly, whose you are, none of those things can steal your identity. Purpose reminds you that you're not what you do. You're not your failures, you're not your followers, you're not your past. You are chosen, called, commissioned, equipped. You are exactly who God knew the world would need in this moment. That truth shifts everything. You stop living on accident and start living with assignment. You start filtering your choices through the lens of purpose. Is this relationship pushing me closer to who God's calling me to be? Is this opportunity aligned with my values or just feeding my ego? Is this pursuit producing peace or draining it? Purpose doesn't just give you direction, it gives you discernment. You begin to recognize what's for you and what's just a distraction. You say no to what might be good so you can say yes to what is God. And every time you choose that yes, something inside you grows stronger. Your faith deepens, your vision sharpens, your joy expands, not because your life is easy, but because your life is meaningful. This is the kind of living the world is hungry for. Not flashy, not curated, but honest, rooted, real. A life that doesn't scream, look at me, but whispers, come and see. Come and see what it looks like to walk in purpose. Come and see how peace can guard your mind in chaos. Come and see what God can do with someone who simply says yes. Because that's the invitation, and it's open to you right now. You don't have to wait for a sign. You don't have to wait until you feel qualified. Purpose doesn't require perfection, it just asks for participation. God isn't looking for the most impressive, He's looking for the most available. Will you be that person? Will you say yes when it's inconvenient? Will you say yes when no one's clapping? Will you say yes when it costs you something? Because that's where purpose lives, not in comfort, but in calling. Not in convenience, but in commitment. And when you live that way, something powerful happens. The mundane becomes meaningful. The ordinary becomes sacred. You begin to see God in moments you used to overlook. You find gratitude in places you used to complain. You feel peace in situations that used to overwhelm you. Because your lens has shifted. You're not looking for more to do. You're looking for more of God in what you're already doing. That's the sweet spot of purpose. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully who you already are in Christ. More grounded, more surrendered, more aware of the divine thread running through every part of your story. Even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. Because purpose doesn't erase pain, but it gives pain purpose. It redeems the moments that once broke you. It gives meaning to the detours. It allows you to look back and say, even that served me. Even that shaped me. Even that God used for good. And when you live from that perspective, you start to inspire others, not with your perfection, but with your perseverance. You show people what it looks like to walk through fire and not lose your faith. You show them how to trust God when it doesn't make sense. You show them what a surrendered life can look like in real time. That's how purpose multiplies. One decision, one act of obedience, one yes at a time. And your yes could be the spark someone else needs. Your peace could be the permission someone else is looking for. Your story could be the evidence that God still uses broken people for beautiful things. So don't underestimate your influence. Don't minimize your voice. Don't disqualify yourself from the very assignment you were born to carry. You're not here by accident. You're here by divine design. And the world needs what's inside of you, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Now is the time to rise, not in your own strength, but in surrender. Not for recognition, but for obedience. Not to chase success, but to live with significance. This world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who live from a deep well of purpose. People who are unshaken by opinions because they are anchored in truth. People who aren't led by pressure, but by peace. People who choose the eternal over the temporary. And that can be you. You don't need to be famous to be faithful. You don't need a title to walk in authority. You don't need a stage to make an impact. You just need to show up where God placed you, with open hands and a willing heart. Because sometimes the most powerful move isn't a big leap. It's the quiet choice to keep going. To keep loving, to keep forgiving, to keep building when it's hard, to keep trusting when it's dark. That's how legacies are formed, not in spotlight moments, but in silent faithfulness. When you live this way, your life begins to preach louder than any words. Your peace speaks, your consistency speaks, your integrity speaks. And people take notice, not because you're trying to be seen, but because your presence carries something real, something deep, something unshakable. That something is purpose. It's divine, it's eternal, and it's available to you right now. But you have to choose it. Choose to live with clarity, not confusion. Choose to live with trust, not tension. Choose to live with focus, not fear. And the beautiful thing about choosing purpose is that it doesn't demand perfection. It invites progress. It invites you to grow, to heal, to show up fully, even while you're still becoming. Because becoming is the point. Becoming more aligned, more surrendered, more in tune with the heartbeat of heaven. That's what it means to live on mission. Not just doing more, but becoming more. Not just existing, but thriving. Not just surviving, but shining. Shining with the quiet glow of someone who knows why they're here. Shining not to draw attention, but to draw others closer to the God who lights their path. So today, make the decision to live with purpose, to walk in meaning, to move with eternal vision. Because this moment matters, and so do you. You matter not because of what you've achieved, but because of who created you. You matter not because of how perfect your journey has been, but because of how purposefully God is using it. You matter because your life carries a light that someone else desperately needs to see. So don't dim it, don't doubt it, don't delay it. You've been entrusted with influence, right where you are. You've been given gifts, unique to your wiring and your story. You've been placed in this generation for such a time as this. That's not random, that's purpose. And the more you step into that truth, the more alive you become. Not just going through the motions, but moving with meaning. Not just reacting to life, but responding to heaven's call. Not just existing, but living on fire for the things that matter most. Because the more you align with God's purpose, the more peace you carry, the more clarity you walk in, the more joy you find in the journey, even when it's uncertain. That's the gift of purpose. It grounds you, it strengthens you, it reminds you who you are and why you're here. So don't wait for the perfect moment, live the one you've been given. Don't wait to be ready, just be willing. Don't wait to feel qualified, God already called you. And if this message stirred something in you, don't scroll past it. Subscribe to Think Fresh Daily. Share this with someone who's been feeling lost or stuck. Join a movement of people choosing presence over pressure, faith over fear, and purpose over performance. Because together we are rising, not to impress the world, but to impact it. To reflect heaven on earth, to walk fully awake. To live a life that says, I may not have it all figured out, but I'm walking with the one who does. This is the power of purpose. This is the life you were made for. This is your time. Live it well, live it boldly, live it with purpose.